And yes, as promised, we are also building up to what happens later this evening. And do remember, you're looking at that big address by the Prime Minister at the UNGA tomorrow. And as you just heard a lot of these conversations coming out, a large focal point of what he could end up saying is also, remember, going to be his intent vis-a-vis Pakistan, vis-a-vis terrorism. Again and again, New Delhi has maintained that you will not have terrorism and talks that can go hand in hand. But before that happens, let's also quickly say good morning now to our colleague Niranjan, who's up bright and early with us on the broadcast as always, getting you more insight. Niranjan, today the Prime Minister is meeting with the Iranian president, and yes, you have to keep in mind the backstory. US throwing venom literally at Iran with those, sanctions. So where will this actually leave India with? How much room does India even have to maneuver?
Coming into this US visit, Dipti, and good morning from New York. It's a very early morning and it's a bright morning, 7:40 a.m. And it's getting a little cold here. Yesterday it dipped to almost about 10 degrees at night, and it is getting colder. But I can tell you, as far as Iran is concerned, it's a tricky issue. And coming into this US visit, we've had the attack on the Saudi oil wells, and this is going to be a tough one for India, a tough balancing act for the Prime Minister. And Iran, and one of the biggest debates here when we came into Houston and New York was whether the US would or should intervene in what's happening in Saudi. Saudi, of course, has also linked Iran to the attack on its oil wells, and rebels, the Yemeni rebels, are believed to have carried out the attack. Now, for India, what does this mean? Coming out of the Houston event, after the bilateral with Donald Trump, it's going to be tricky, because for India, Iran is also an important country as far as oil is concerned. And if energy is the mood of this visit of the Prime Minister, it becomes all the more important. So a lot of attention is being paid to this visit, and it's a critical one for India, let's admit that. And India will have to play that balancing act. The Prime Minister trying to meet as many heads of state as possible here in New York, and he will be meeting Rouhani in a few hours from now. Now, that's one of his biggest engagements today, but I think the biggest headline and the biggest focus for us here at Republic TV will be his engagement at the UN General Assembly, where he will be addressing, the 74th UNGA in about 24 hours. That's at 10 a.m. tomorrow. But Dipti, I think that's the focus, and it's building up here. I can tell you that a lot of people, a lot of supporters of the Prime Minister are also going to gather in New York from across America. We've had many Indians come in buses and buses to support the Prime Minister tomorrow when he speaks inside the UNGA. So I can tell you, from where we have been live for the last few days outside the UN and opposite the Trump World Tower, there have been so many groups of people who've been gathering to make their point to different heads of state. And that's going to get louder tomorrow with over 5,000 people who will be gathering. So there was Houston with 50,000 people. Tomorrow outside the UN, just one block away, there will be 5,000 Indians rooting for the Prime Minister. And it's going to be one explosive speech. Now, we are being told it's not going to be focused on one particular country or one aspect, but it's going to talk about the India story, and he's going to make a pitch, of course, for the entire world to fight terror, all 193 nations to come together and fight terror. Now, terror, of course, will be a highlight of the Prime Minister's speech, and it will be followed by the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan's speech as well. So, complete focus on the Prime Minister's UN speech, but I think before that, taking a step back, it will be his engagement with Iran and Rouhani, and Iran is a key partner. Let's not forget, Iran is one of the biggest exporters of oil to India, and Prime Minister Modi will want to strike a fine balance as far as Iran is concerned. It's very key and critical to India, and also in terms of what's happening with the attack on the Saudi oil wells. Iran is under scanner, and let's see where it goes from here. Dipti, I'm tossing it back to you. We're live from New York this morning.
All right, yes, and as promised, Niranjan there live with us, getting us more updates. With this, we quickly are heading into a break right now here. Niranjan, on the other side, we again say hi to you. And yes, we'll add up more information building up to that big address by the Prime Minister at the UNGA.